case study. Those are our names right there. So, first of all, first question was talking about Thai Union's resources and capabilities and what steered them to success. Basically, they enabled us for entering markets in Europe and America. So first of all, we came up with all the points that were within the case. And first of all was the low-cost skill level that the Thai Union had, followed by the product diversification. There was also the acquisition power that they had. They had loads of cash. They were able to expand their global outreach in terms of getting into Europe and America. There was also efficiency in operations that they actually had at the time, skilled production, and also the tech platform that they developed called
What is
Team.
skilled production?
Skilled production, we mentioned the fact that they were able to not only focus in terms of the refrigeration in Thailand, but also go into Europe and practice the same production techniques. There was also the strong brand.
So what competence is that?
On skilled production. I would push you towards resource, but it could also be part of the institution itself, but more resource based. There's also the strong brand itself as well. Across Asia, Europe, and America, they were quite known, and they also acquired quite popular brands around, such as the MW brands, the King Oscar, the Macallan, the Marlines, and Ruge and Fish. There was also the CEO's leadership within the organization. We noted that the founder, the son, was actually the one who was actually running on with the expansion into Europe and America. So those were the capabilities and all the resources that we identified for Thai Union as what statement. Next was the factors of the institutional environment. And basically, at home and abroad, that they've been enabled and hindered. There are certain factors that enabled their success and others which actually hindered their global expansion. So the enabling factors constituted of the multiple channels of trading that they had. This was Alibaba, Hima, and Timo towards expanding its global footprint. There was also the market expansions through acquisitions in USA, as well as several countries in Europe.
So when you say it enabled, show us how it did, right?
Okay, through the platforms that they had, the tech platforms that they had, they were able to ensure that they get a more global outreach towards their customers across the globe. Because there were international brands that they partnered with. For instance, Alibaba. And they also came out with Timo, whereby they...
So were they using Alibaba, Tmall to be able to market to all the markets they went to? Or?
No, actually all markets, including China. That's one of the... including China, with regards to Alibaba. Factors that hindered. Within the expansion in North America, there were certain challenges that they found with regards to the authorities that were there in terms of the objections of its expansion. There were also certain pushbacks from NGOs and lobby groups that were there, and also the cultural differences between Thai Union.
So why were there these pushbacks?
Pushbacks. another hindrance or another factor that hindered the cultural differences also hindered Thai Union's expansion in terms of foreign countries that they had to employ different strategies. For this. So this was considered quite expensive in terms of acquisition.
And what are these cultural differences?
So for instance, Thai Union used to refrigerate their fish products. When they went to certain other markets, they realized that, for instance, that in China they like fish raw, ready from the seas. So they had to ensure that they have to align themselves in terms of their global strategy, being able to serve the markets effectively.
So how did they serve this market despite this challenge?
I think part of what we're addressing is how they would serve such a market. Because at the end of the day, you want to be able to satisfy the needs of the customers that you have. So we're looking at the possibility of having built specialty or expertise in dealing with frozen food, frozen seafood. Then when they go to the Chinese market, then they would look at the possibility of either acquiring some of the local companies that are able to supply like fresh fish. From the article, you could see that they prefer to select their food before it's killed, or I don't know how to call that. So you partner with local companies to be able to address that angle of the market that probably don't have expertise in, but the market is still big enough for you to pay attention to it.
So the next question was, how can Thai Union expand into China? So we classified into what we know and how they were to get there. So what we know is that the Chinese market was highly regulated and controlled. Thai Union needs to understand the culture of the Chinese, and they need to identify certain state actors. These are people who have influence within the industries, and also in terms of getting them to the next step. They also need to understand the social cultural factors that are actually different between Thailand and China.
Which are you telling us what they are?
So, for instance, the aspect of the fish and how the customers actually prefer the fish served. In terms of Thailand, they used to prefer frozen products, frozen packaging. In terms of, but with respect to China, they prefer the ready of the seas serving. And also,
your role is that you're a strategist at this level, right? So it's your homework to get to understand all those differences and how can you overcome them.
I think it's should be subsequent slides where we look at how we go about this. Basically, as much as there's an element of the Asian continent sharing some practices that are common. Once you go into the specific markets, then there are different needs for the different customers that you need to serve. So that's where we're looking at the possibility of us being able to either go a joint venture way or find companies that we can buy out that are able to do, I would call it the last mile distribution according to the preference of the customer. So in this context, if you want to select your meal when it's still alive, then we can be able to deliver that. Question would be, do we do partial acquisition or do we go full acquisition? And what would be the perception of the market seeing a new company, that is in the case of full acquisition, seeing a new company coming into the market, or do we leverage the existing brands that are already doing this and already have, they're commanding a good percentage of the market share. We were looking at the fact that the company has built a lot of expertise around the kind of equipment they have and some of the partnerships they've been able to build in other continents. And that in itself is an asset. So they bring that expertise to the Chinese market and also look at what exists in the market that could complement their efforts.
The union strategy includes the China market. We checked on the key partners, who are the fishing companies, and also the Chinese government, the key partners for the companies, also lobby groups and support from the industry.
Where? In China or where?
For the China.
In Thai market. In China market.
Chinese market.
So when we say lobby groups, what lobby groups are we talking about? Do you have examples?
Ideally, we were looking at maybe association of the guys in the fishing industry. And of
Check
course,
if this one exists.
yeah, but we're also trying to look at also from a labor perspective. Some of them would be lobby groups around the labor industry. And whenever there's a player coming in, there's a need to align with some of these lobby groups. Otherwise, they end up being a stumbling block instead of being an enabler. Yet they have that capacity to be able to enable you to be able to execute your money to the market.
So now we go through some of the late mover advantages. So the question posed to Group 4 was, in what situations should branded consumer goods manufacturers consider forgoing potential fast mover advantages and delay their entry until after a competitor has entered? So these are some of the late mover advantages we came up with. So the first one is the highly regulated environment. So after a firm has studied the market and they'll be prepared.
It's not a farm in this case. Yeah, in this case, it's Thai Union, right? And this is what the question he gave us after, right?
It was the question he gave us after the power. So you bring it on farm level. So a farm might decide to enter a market late after studying the necessary regulations and be ready for that. For example, in power sharing in the telecommunications industry. And the other one was to understand customer tastes. So a farm might decide to enter late to leverage on the existing successes in regards to customer tastes and be able to change their goods or services that they're offering in regards to this one and be able to offer a more customer-centric solution. So the other one I'll talk about was the high research costs. So some of the fast movers have to incur significant costs to research in regards to better into the business. So for late movers, after that cost is already incurred, they have already been tried and tested, so it's easier for them to enter into the market.
The other going to be provision of hybrid services. And in this case, you would need to study the current market and be able to find sort of a niche market and customize something for them. So if they would, if you would start at the beginning, you really don't have an idea of what maybe a certain segment is missing. So after studying the current, that's when it's like, maybe we can offer something of higher value and be able to charge a certain premium amount that a certain segment will be willing to pay.
For that particular case, we looked at our market, the car market in Kenya, where we have all these models that have been existing in the market for about 10, 20 years, Mitsubishis and the like. Then we had these high-end vehicles coming in, like Porsche, Bentley, who came into the market later. Yet, if you look at the other country like South Africa, they were already existing there. Some of them are actually assembling there, but they delayed to come into the market because one, either they try to leverage the existing your existing competitors' knowledge and experience in the market. Being able to look at the possibility, especially for the being high-end products that we're looking at in this context. What's the growth, especially within the middle class and the top and the upper class, and what amount of disposable income they can be able to set aside, looking at all the competing needs. So this particular was quite applicable in the motoring industry. Of course, it can be applicable even for low goods targeting the mass market.
Data political solutions different strategy, and this will look at maybe international hubs coming to the market to simply seek an opportunity that is currently missing and that is using it. And in this case, we will and then manufacturers during the World Cup, in the sense that they come and find maybe at this particular time there is something, maybe sport or a certain activity, and how can they be able to benefit by maybe offering something that is missing and that. And the last thing is resource acquisition, in which case is basically acquiring experience talent after, and this we can look at it maybe from the IT industry, where you find young people, young talent that no one has really pushed into it, instead of using maybe guys being there for a while. In this case, you would be looking maybe at young people who have passion and not this experience, and so be willing to learn. Yeah.
Maybe then we can keep questions till the end of everybody, right? Because then if we ask you questions from the case, as I have done, we are already informing somebody else, right? Okay. So let's clap for them. Your 6 numbers or 7? Right? So let's have them. This is group 4, so let's have group 2, right? Group 1. Hello guys. Hi. So we'll go through the questions the way we tackled them. The first question was, from a resource perspective, what are the key resources and capabilities that have enabled Thai Union to successfully enter the markets in Europe and North America? We divided them into three parts. We divided them into organizational capital, physical capital, and human capital. Under organizational capital, we had aspects such as the acquisition strength, where we were told that the firm was able to acquire the local firms in USA, in Europe, which we saw that this increased their presence and their ability to operate in these countries. We saw brand leadership.
So when you talk about ability, yes, what are you referring to? Ability to operate in this market. I'm just striving to all of us to be a little specific in terms of our understanding of the theories that we have learned, right?
For ability in terms of, for example, we were told that the sales increased in each of these markets where they acquired local firms. Brand leadership. Thai Union was a brand leader in a lot of the European states, such as France, UK, Ireland, Netherlands, and Italy. So this market leadership also shows the strength of their brand. Product diversification. Through the case, we saw that when it came to their products, they had the premium products. Also, we were told that they had some of the lower end products, which they then converted into aspects such as pet food. Cost leadership. We saw a lower cost of labor in how they used the lower costs to their advantage, and also the optimization of raw raw product inputs to their advantage as well.
So when you talk about the cost leadership, how did they use it to their advantage?
Initially, the base they started off in Thailand, actually the cost of labor was cheaper, and it gave them an advantage in terms of getting their products to what price in the initial phases. But we, as the article went through, we saw that also became an area where they were pushed back when they went to market, which was being much better. That's why the unions and the environmentalists started to push back. They had the in-depth view, adapt to that, and fitting.
How did they adapt to that? This is very, very important, the understanding of the case, right? Okay. How did they adapt to that?
So the cost.
A lot of the knowledge may not be the case, but it's our homework to understand the context, right? Okay? All right, under physical capital, the proximity to natural resources can also be an aspect of the cost, because then it's allowed them to have a shorter period of the change from the fishing and all of this to the finished products. Then we also have the manufacturing resources. We have the fishing fleet, which we are told under manufacturing resources, the Thai Union made a big splash on acquiring the MW brands, which was a French manufacturer and a distributor. So we saw this as a gain for them in terms of their physical capital. Under human capital, we've spoken about the low-cost skilled labor, and we were also told that their CEO was quite visionary in that he had high ambitions, and he attempted to bring all this premiumness into the brand, which also pushed the organization further. Although in the US we saw they had a few institutional factors which we are going to mention in the next slide. Then finally, under human capital, we mentioned strategic partnerships. Strategic partnerships came about where they had strong partnerships in the EU, which shot up their sales to about 3.6 billion. And this was broken down into 37% in the US, 32% in Europe, 10% domestic. And we saw this through a lot of the local and bigger brands that they partnered with. And so this was a huge contributor into how Thai Union did its strategy. We'll now move to institution based.
Move on.
Yeah.
You see, on the looking for when we're talking about their manufacturing resources, we also have to look that they placed a lot of these manufacturing resources strategically. They had interest in the Americas, they had something there. They had interest in Europe, they acquired manufacturing potential there. Then they had the bases in Thailand, which would have catered for Asia. And these were the continents they were involved in. So it seems that they didn't have to transport a lot of their things too far from the market they were actually like.
And even finally, when they were going into the Chinese market, we saw that this was also a strategy for them going into that market, despite some of the informal institutional issues that they faced in culture. They focused more on the strategic alliances bit for them to run the business, institution-based.
Right. From an institution-based view, you'll notice that the theory mostly pushes us to think of strategy in terms of either formal aspects or informal aspects. For our formal aspects, you'll notice that one of the key things that we realized was when it came to the US, regulation is something that was really central and that was pushing how, I'm sorry, I hope this slide doesn't go. Thank you. Yeah, regulation was something that was really the center of things, and it really affected how the global strategy that was used in how they were able to get into the US. A case in point for this was there was an accusation that needed to happen in the US, but it was stopped because apparently there was a lot of, it was considered that Thai Union was too big to be able to acquire such a firm. We see the leadership actually decide.
What position was this one?
They wanted to acquire, I think, a company
In the US, they were stopped because of they were saying the industry is
concentrated.
What does it mean by the industry to be concentrated?
For this, I think in the case for Thai Union, I think if they join at such a large stake, they're already out there, very big in the world, to mean lesser competition for any new players who would be coming in, because they would be too big to compete.
What I think the US government was preventing is having now very big people coming in and dominating the market. And now by doing that, we could undercut the smaller ones and then have the market for themselves. Basically, going to a duopoly or monopoly kind of competition.
So when it comes to the approach in Europe, the formal aspects that come up as stringent European labor and environmental practices, this was evident in the case as you found out, like as soon as they entered the sections of Europe, it became important that how they manufactured their products at the end of the day, even though they were being manufactured at a different place, it was important to the folks in Europe that the labor laws and laws around like environmental sustainability will be followed in. Recently, as you notice, if you go through their website, you'll notice that they've been able to partner with the European Council to try and fix this particular aspect. So for the FDI environment is also like another key thing that has been affected by the formal aspects of let's say like institution-based perspective. On the informal aspect, you'll notice that lack of market intelligence really was going to cost them heavily, especially in them entering China and assuming the question of what is fresh. Fresh in China means something very different. Something alive that is ready to be picked up by the diner or the cook. But in Thailand, they're okay with refrigeration and other forms of preservation of their products. For the Chinese consumers, their preferences were completely different. And
Does the case see that Thailand are okay with this?
It's an assumption.
It's an assumption.
It's an assumption.
Because it's a Thai company, I think they will practice well what is normally practiced in China. The issue now when they are going out, then they find these kind of changes. People want something live, which you are not prepared to logistically to supply to them. You have to learn of the world.
you the brand? This is group 3. We're going to do the credit.
Oh, this is the first group that brings us the logo. Come for them. It's knowing the company, right?
Yeah.
So when you see the logo, you know the company.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Yeah, so we'll do the introduction. So this is a company that does frozen products. And it's a family business that was founded in 1977 by Chinese immigrants. And their area of specialization was seafood processing. They had subsidiaries in Canada, China, France, India, Indonesia, and Japan, Norway, USA, and Vietnam. Some of the footprints for this brand was in North America, Europe, and some of their brands were just on chicken, the Northwest, in Oscar. They also had strategic partners in Asia and North America, Europe, Asia, and those are the main areas they had. And those are some of the strategic partners they had. The red dot signs. All right, so we go straight. I think that is the introduction of the company. Now we go to the question number 1.
So for question number 1, we had from a resource perspective, what are the key resources and capabilities that have enabled Thai Union to successfully enter markets in Europe and North America? So from the case, we were able to, since their origin was in Thailand, one of the things they did to venture into the international market was trade agreements and joint ventures in the overseas company. So if you look at the example of going into the Japan market, they started by exporting to the Japan market, and then after that they went into a joint venture agreement with a local a local company. Then now they established their presence in Japan. In the US, they went into the US market in North America to also exporting. They started by exporting, and then after that they set up the physical offices, sales offices in the US. Once the other resource they had was through their quest for a market-seeking motive. They acquired European brands, MW brands, which had John West, Petit Nazi, here, what's that, the Dutch one, Gladwell, probably like the French one, and Marie Blue, and that other one, which is? Okay, yeah, this one. So they acquiring these brands enabled the business to expand their fishing and processing functions into their capabilities. And also in terms of market leadership, the tuna and other seafood products, it enables them to now go into these markets that previously they were not into. The result of this strategy was that they were able to acquire the market share in Europe through by moving it from 11% to over 33%. Another strategy they used was, another resource they had was the initial strategy they had for a low production cost base in the home country, Thailand. So they used the capability of having a low cost skilled labor to be able to now scale in terms of the amount of products we were able to get out into the market. Another aspect was product diversification. They had fish and shrimp, which was a key product for them. So what they did is, rather than selling the products as just fish and shrimp, they went ahead and used the best parts as top products for their brand. And then for the residues, they were able to create repurpose into pet food. Another resource they had was the leadership, which was Theafong Chamsili, who was the CEO. He was able to pursue a growth strategy, which drove the company to acquire Orion Seafood, which was dealing in crab processing. And after that, after the successful acquisition, they were able to move into the US, Canada, US and Canadian market with the other brand that
Yes, thank you very much.
So, hi, everyone. So I'll take you through question 2, which reads, from an institutional perspective, what are the factors in the institutional environment at home and abroad that have enabled or hindered high unit growth or expansion? So the first thing we'll capture is that there was so much pressure from North America and Europe, from NGOs, about the treatment of workers in Myanmar. Which is far away from North America, but still had a lot of impact in America. So what that actually did is that it drove Thai Union to invest in their fleet and in CSR activities, which is something really important for the North American market and the European market as well, which enabled them to gain their momentum in those regions. So the second thing is that they were able to push beyond challenges. In as much as they faced objections from the US authorities about the concentration of ownership in the food industry, and they were unable to acquire bumblebee, they pushed on and were able to acquire crab purveyor, the crab purveyor Orion Seafood in the US, and also processing plant in Canada, which aided the expansion in those markets. There's a lot of conversation about China, the expansion into China, but one thing that I'd like us to note is that they kept their eyes on the ball. In 2017, if you look at the sales analysis, 9% of the sales came from North America and Europe. Japan contributed 10%, and the rest of the world contributed 21%. So China was an emerging market. More that we capture in the next question. But there were China was more or less a new frontier from 2017 onwards. So they encountered a lot of challenges in terms of distribution, challenges like container, quality control. Remember that fresh for Chinese would be alive, seafood that's actually alive.
Is this beer? That fresh for them is live? No. It's no beer, right? No.
It's actually true.
I mean, it's culture.
You can't be more pressure than
The
that.
same thing as Kenya. I mean, if you come to my homeland, Marcel, and we are eating, we're drinking blood. It's normal for us, but we are.
That the goat has to be slaughtered when everybody is there.
So, as well as challenges with the urban middle class consumers, especially in terms of. So they had a strategy where there was a preference of the Western brand in China, which was viewed as a high pedigree for the frozen seafood, as compared to other brands, which gave an edge.
Alan, speak a little louder.
So the presence of the Western brand actually gave a competitive edge for Thai Union in the entry strategy in China.
The third bit that we looked at was how Thai Union would strategize to get into the China market, how would be the appropriate partners and what sort of organization we would choose if we were Thai Union. So the first strategy was to set up a local processing plant so that in China and in fishing vessels in China, this just isn't the burden of logistics of getting the product to the market. Is that it's engaged in joint venture with the existing distributors and logistics companies in the industry and processing plants to just make sure that they are able to acquire the skills that they need to just serve that market. The other bit was to invest into more high European brands like in addition to the King Oscar, obviously the market is segmented. There's the high end, there's the middle, and there's where everyone else lies. But no, there was no complementary brand after King Oscar. Then there was the strategy of going directly to Alibaba as opposed to just going through their existing partnership. This gives them a larger platform and they are able to figure out on their sales. Another strategy would be to sign up more strategic partnerships with supermarket chains and food outlets, just to again grow their top line sales. For China markets, because of their demand of freshly caught seafood, the logical thing would be to invest into a logistics and distribution channel. Just make it easier to go to market and to deliver the product to the customers. Then, obviously, because of the far-flung markets, they need to invest in more refrigeration and chilling equipment, so that they can, again, scale.
The final question was on, not thankful this time, but generally, situations where companies will consider sharing control of an operation with a local firm, which is directly or indirectly owned by the host country government. One of the places where you would partner with a local government or a local government entity in joint operations would be if you are in a nationally strategic sector. So for example, if the company is engaged in, for example, defense industry or cyber security or certain sensitive sectors, and they still want to have a pie of the market in that country, then it might make sense to have a joint operation or a cooperation with a locally owned company. There are many examples, especially in the defense industry. There are other examples also in Kenya, for example, Belarus, just across the road somewhere here, is they print they've been printing for the Kenyan government the currency, and government is a part involved in the operations. If the joint operations or co-operations will give any tax benefits or any other advantages that from a policy perspective, then it might be a situation where you share control. In cases where you want to reduce political risk, in countries where the political risk is very high, it might be beneficial to be seen to be, in co-control with a government entity or a government-owned company. So this strategy was very common in the developing countries back then. Like for example, in the hotel industry, most of the big hotel chains, Hilton, Intercontinental here in Nairobi, were co-owned with tourism development corporation or something like that. So
is it because the government had a stake or why?
Yes.
Yeah. And what's the stake?
The stake is through actual investing.
What was their interest in this?
The government. So government would be to sort of control. It's a sort of control because you want to control that market, and then it's also a way to promote tourism or
I think in a big way it's also industries where the government would like to develop capabilities and understanding, right? So in this way they must be sure that they have control and they can be able to build expertise in that sector within the industry, right?
Another way, if you are foreign multinational and you want to reduce political risk is if you feel this country probably the risk of nationalization is high, then or your assets being taken over randomly by government, then it might make sense to to have co-control with a government-related company. That way you are able to influence things from the inside. So from a policy influence perspective, huge investments with long-term return.
I think it could also be, if for example, you're coming in and you don't have the good understanding of this particular area, and you feel only the insiders in the government can be able to, give you the futuristic view in terms of understanding what's the journey. Say, for example, if you're coming in and you're investing in the maybe uranium industry in Kenya,
Yes.
right? This is a little sensitive.
Yes.
You want to be sure that you can be able to read 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, 50 years, 100 years from now. Is there a future?
So that goes to our next point. So where the investment horizon is very long, and you don't know how things are going to pan out, and what you need to invest upfront is huge. Exploration, oil exploration is one of them, mineral extraction, those sort of things.
So we call them sunk costs,
Sunk
right?
costs, yeah, gas pipelines, if you want to engage in provision of public goods, public utilities, electricity, water, a lot of private companies run these facilities all over the world. So it might to gain a bit of legitimacy also, so that you and because of the public nature of your products, government involvement sometimes is critical. Sometimes you might want to access government funding. Governments might be able to access huge funding cheaper through multilateral organizations, World Bank, IFC, any other. In developing countries, there are funds to try and grow certain sectors. So if you are a co-owned, co-controlled company with government, then or a government entity, then you are likely to access. In 2008, during the financial crisis, you saw a lot of banks, getting government support, and some of the conditions were that government is sort of involved. Yeah, yes, exactly. Here at home, Kenya Airways is an example. Kenya Airways is accessing, even as late as last week, was it 5 billion or something from government, and then you have government representatives in the board and all that.
Other examples in Kenya?
Other examples in Kenya is in the power sector, I think. I can't quite remember, but they are in the power sector. They are.
I think we've seen solar power, especially with the solar fields, and there is solar fields with I think it's Meru County government, which is doing this as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Certain joint venture arrangements with governments, which can work for any of the industry, where you want specific licensing deals like minerals, would make sense to partner with government. Acquisition of shares in public company with the largest shareholding by government, then will also force you to be in control, or you see some operational control to government. Thank you very much. We will take questions.
So the last book, we didn't give us your last question, right? You only did the case.
We did.
Did
The
you?
question about Poland and the FBI environmental is
Okay, the first question that you addressed. So you
the
addressed
last
it before.
question. The last question you weren't listening.
I wasn't listening.
No, I meant not you. I was talking to Martin. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Let's start for them then. I mean, I like the approaches and the angles at which we are all looking at the case, right? So everybody looks at different perspectives. So let's hear the final group, what perspective they bring into the understanding of this case. Time already?
But let's listen to that.
Okay. So group 2, and we'll start off with Kai.
Yeah, let us see the resource perspective. We want to look at the tangible human resources and intangible resources. These guys, they had financial resources that enabled them to expand and acquire companies across Europe and North America. Physical resources, they had high asset base, which included plant offices in regions. Whenever they went, they set up plants and offices in those regions. Then human resources, they had a cumulative long experiences with their employees. The skills that they had, the know-how, because of the long periods that these guys repeatedly did the same thing, that enhanced their knowledge and ability to deliver when it came to their human resources. Then also the culture. They were adaptive to the markets where they went to. They studied the markets and adapted their products and services to such markets. Intangible resources, brand reputation. They had a strong brand. That meant that as they expanded to other markets, they were able to make successful acquisitions. We can take example with now M-Pesa is going global. So as they expand, they go to say Tanzania, Uganda, wherever. Because of the brand reputation that they have, it's making them look. They already look good, so they enter into new markets easily. Let's look at their key capabilities, operational capabilities. They took advantage of low cost of labor they took advantage of low cost of labor where they operated in Southeast Asia. Labor is not very expensive, and so it made them easy for them. They had a lot of cash at hand to do other things that they were doing with their operations. Then logistics and services, proximity to the sea, and their processing capabilities. Their products are perishable, and so they set up their plants close to the supply chain so that once a product is ready, then it's quickly shipped to the market. Sorry. Then corporate operations. They manage multiple businesses across different geographies, and they had access to finance in these locations. So this made their corporate operations easy, because they had the cash, of course, at hand to pay salaries, to hire out office spaces, etc.
The next question was the institutional view. Factors affect the institutional environment that enable that perform and abroad expansion. We had it under the three pillars. Formal and informal institutions. Former one is the regulatory pillar, is restrictions by the US government. They try to acquire some company and then in the food sector. And because of the state of the participating market, they were not allowed to buy. They went on and bought another company. It was not far away from it.
What do you mean it was not very far away?
No, actually, not far, but it's far away. It was next to the, next to the shop. The other company they bought.
So they
But
still bought another company?
the gist of it is that the objection of the government is a regulatory pillar. Yeah. There was in the economic pillar we had consumer buyers for fresh food, especially in China. In China, the trend for fresh food that is as opposed to frozen food, which we were used to in Thailand. So that extended the economic pillar. There was also one aspect raised by other groups. In China, they had this different not purchase online, lowering about contamination. So most of that, they do not like online purchases. So that became an issue in China. We can discuss what we thought about it in the strategies, because we're going to do sort of in how to get people to start buying online. There was pressure from NGOs, especially in the US, the environmentalists, and that is what forms the knowledge pillar. These are the institutional factors that we encountered.
Okay, so the next question was asking how does the Thai Union enter the Chinese market? What strategies do they use given some of the unique things that you've seen there? And the first thought is strategic and joint ventures. This involves things like acquisition of local companies. This will help in getting a company that already knows the lay of the land. In China, it comes with all the licenses that you need, all the locations that you need, processes, and so on and so forth. And that will speed up your entry into that particular market. And particularly you're coming in from other jurisdictions where you have other expertise. These guys have got a wide area of jurisdictions that they deal with or that they've operated with. So you can come with some of those expertise that you've learned from these other areas in handling things, in processing, in logistics, and plugging into local enterprise that perhaps could benefit from that skills transfer. And then as well as the partnership that we talk about there. The other thing is localization of local management and leadership. You'll find that if you enter a new market as complex as China, you definitely need to have the locals guide you and tell you that this is how we do business, this is what is accepted. There's quite a bit of cultural nuances that you'll be able to come across and deal with. So if you top leadership and management both
it's one thing to say what they should do, but what exactly did they do and why did they go to that?
Now, it came to a situation where there was this, when they did the joint, but for us, we didn't go for full ownership. So we had a joint venture arrangement where, especially in the case of fresh food, the fresh where you supply within 30 minutes to the customer. We say that they needed a local partner who then have the knowledge, local knowledge on the ground.
That's what you're prescribing.
Yeah, that's what you're prescribing.
Right? But what's the actual thing that they actually did? And how different is that from what you're prescribing?
When they just went and did their thing from finance, what we call
yeah, we'll look into it.
Okay. The other thing is partnering with other marketing and research organizations to try and what we're trying to do here is try to maybe get insights into the Chinese palette. And this is something perhaps you can try to pick out what are the characters, future trends that you should be perhaps positioning for. So partnering with those two, both research and marketing, to try and create that. We've seen that to the likes of, say, KFC, who you find that the menu in China is slightly different from all other places in the world, simply because they find that that particular palette is. So we thought that this is something that you could also do.
Different about their menu?
Things like dumplings. You find that in KFC.
No, I'm not sure they serve dumplings, but I think they serve the donut, long donut, which is like mandazi, with soya milk for breakfast.
Yeah. Which you won't find in other similar examples. So the idea is to try and figure out what would be that thing.
I'm trying to move you from prescription to the actual things. You understand what I mean? Yeah, to just say this is what they should do, but what exactly they did, because this is a real case, right? This company exists, right? And like one of the groups told us that they have actually had successful businesses across board, and maybe China, Asia is not one of the big share of the market, but it means that they exist there. How did they enter there, right? How different is that from what exactly did they have to understand that made them choose that, right? How else would they have benefited if they chose this strategy besides what they already chose?
Okay, we need to approach it from that perspective.
Yeah, I'm just trying to move us to be hands-on deciders, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, fair point.
Okay, I think that is that.
So yes, our question was, what are the obstacles to overseas expansion by multinational entities in the emerging markets? So we took both approaches from an institution-based view and a resource-based view. Then we gave solutions around how we would address both views. Okay, so from an institution-based view, some of the obstacles we saw that overseas companies normally face when they come on ground is like fierce competition. One, from fast mover advantage, people who are already existing in the country, vis-a-vis them who are coming in. So that's one factor that they face. There's also trade barriers in terms of tariffs and non-barriers, tariffs and tariffs that they have to comply with so as to be able to do business in the countries that they're looking to expand into. There are also regulatory concerns from a tax and accounting perspective. So companies have to do due diligence so that they're not caught in such tax scandals and things like that that can also affect the growth of their company. Another obstacle we looked into is complexity in the foreign market development, things that were happening or rather work in one market don't necessarily always work in a different market. So standardization may not be the best way moving forward. Strong integration among countries that are difficult to penetrate. So depending on, let's say, the trade blocks that are there, they can also form a barrier for you to actually get into different countries and expand. There's also policies, laws and policies around employment and practices, and this can affect the number of the hiring plan that you have, your expansion in terms of how do you think, how you organize the people of your company. And then we have resources mobilization, depending on what financing options are available locally. Sometimes you have to find yourself looking inwardly, when in other markets you are looking at local partners to actually help you build financial capabilities in that country. Then there's also, obviously, especially in Africa, we have the issue around political environment and how that has an effect at the end of the day on how you're able to conduct business, depending on the regime on the ground, that will either define whether you succeed or not succeed. And these are some of the factors that affect the multinationals. And also, how is this local institution and setup and impact on the global value chain? So how is it that your company, or rather how is the infrastructure in the country you want to set up, and how does that look like compared to where you're coming from as an OEM, and then how do you integrate those two and help and they become pillars that help you scale, as opposed to have to
put in more infrastructure to make it work. And finally, we have, in terms of divergent ethical standards, depending on which country you are, there are different ethical standards and corporate governance policies that govern those countries, and this will actually impact, at the end of the day, how you do business. Yeah, and that's from an institution-based view. Resource.
Yeah, first we had a few comments on that. First was one of the obstacles was the ability to fund the expansion. The dry foods went down by open partnerships, whatever the market they enter. That is how they resources and capabilities. They have to acquire resources and capabilities wherever they went. But that they also did by merging with others, meaning that it was easier to do that because they put their capabilities to be able to acquire those capabilities. The organizational capabilities are in management. So the first three are sorted out by the fact that they were partnering with others. So that puts out the ability issue. The ability to compete in a new environment, the same thing. They put it out by partnering in other areas, so it also means that you have an edge when you enter, because you have a person on the ground who already knows what goes on, knows the competition, knows the market. Human resource competence capabilities, let's say to give competitive advantage, still the same issue. Once you partner, means you already have that on the ground. R&D, resource capabilities. Once again, their strategy was the same, and that helped sort out most of that the problems that they're engaging, that they found, or the problem that we assumed they had. So, lack of access to resources and capabilities. For example, in China, there was this issue of this platform, which is not wanting to use the online purchasing system. So that's one of the.
Is it true that people in China didn't want to use the online platform?
Yeah, because there was one thing, because they were afraid of contamination.
What does the case say?
That's what it says. That is why they are even, and also there are two things to it. One fact is that they like fresh food. And you cannot guarantee fresh if you are buying online and being delivered. They wanted to buy direct, yeah.
Is it all online or local online?
So from the case, the issue of online, I don't think they were averse to going online. It was just in terms of the product. The idea of going online through the fish. They didn't prefer fresh fish. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Specifically fresh fish.
Yes.
Right? This is very important understanding, because this is what guides the strategy that Thai Union actually finally decides to use in China. Yeah, right?
So the other one is value chain activities, which once again is sorted out by partnering with others on the ground.
So these obstacles are not specific for Thai. I'd like to share just for MNEs, basically what are the obstacles they face from a resource-based view. And so some of the proposed solutions generally on how companies or firms can try and overcome them is what Corey was alluding to, partnerships. What are the partnerships that are available locally or from a global standpoint where they already have engagements that can help them, collaborate and actually get into this market? There are also, yes, what are the ownership structures available for them when they think about joint ventures, or is it actually going to be acquisitions or mergers for them to be able to actually move into the country and also just experience business growth? Agglomeration to enhance capabilities, just trying to see from inwardly what it is that we have internally that we can use corporately to try and actually get into the markets, such as shared services from a sourcing standpoint, from a supply chain standpoint. What are these capabilities we can enhance so that you actually get into the farms, into the new markets, and then distribution channels that are available so that to meet customer demands. For example, now that like in China, if the online strategy works, then how can we build an infrastructure to make that actually work? Financing solutions are some of the ways that we can overcome some of the institution and resource-based views in terms of financial capabilities to actually make decisions that can actually support the growth and expansion of the company. The sales and marketing strategies that also Humphrey alluded to around how can we use local agencies, ad and promo to try and get our products, build brand awareness and get our sales going. And then leveraging economies of scale, depending on your farm, how big you are and your reach, you can definitely leverage economies of scale to actually move into the emerging economies. And so this is some of the strategies that we can use. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's start with that. I think this is present to us a very, very good case to be able to, one, understand the choice of entry modes, but also the timings. If you look at the timings from when they started, we say this farm started which year? 1977 in Thai, right? In Thai, and then founds this particular organization. The first country of entry is which one in terms of the internationalization? Huh? Which one is the first one? Japan. Japan in which year?
1988.
1988 through what kind of entry mode? Joint venture, meaning that they want to be able to learn, the market. They're learning the internationalization part. Why Japan? It's the biggest shipping, but they have fish already from Thailand that they are taking to Japan. Proximity. When we say proximity, what kind of proximity does this give? Geographic, but also cultural, right? In terms of the dynamics of eating fish, but also, we know Japan are also fish lovers, just like China are, right? But in terms of the technology in food, fish processing and development, then Japan is higher than China, right? So you can actually see it is a farm which is stepping out to be able to learn, to be able to develop their skills in some particular area. 1988, which other country do they enter? USA. Why USA? So far away.
Because of the big Chinese immigrant community in the US.
Maybe
it's a big market.
Which country has got more Chinese immigrant community? USA or Canada or Australia? Which one? Australia. Huh? I think it's really more Australia. At that particular point in time was Australia than even USA, right? So why USA? Large population. What population is this one? 350, right? 350. This is not the largest country to go to for sure, right? Pakistan maybe would have given them bigger market, 600 and something, right? But why USA?
I think maybe of the kind of the customers, the population there.
The what?
The customers that they will find in the US, which is more like the pioneers of the West in general and their culture. So, for example, if you get your product through in the West, in the US, then it means it will go to Canada, also to Europe. It might be seen as something which is appealing, and then, yeah.
All right. So when we read the next case, I sent you a small case from the higher. Maybe you will understand, right? Just having the brand made in USA is actually a legitimacy purpose by itself, right? That you are actually a very credible company which manufactures in USA. You actually see the entry modes they are proposing in USA. What entry modes? What do they do? How do they set up in USA? They first export because they want to start getting to know the market, and then later they do what? Huh? Huh?
They open a sales office.
They open a sales office, and that's all?
And then they acquire.
Which year? So you see, this is what we call international, the evolution process of your internationalization. How do you go abroad, right? Because it's very strategic, the choice of which country do I first go to, for what reason, at what particular part in time, what resources do I have to do that, how do the government or the institutional environment in that country support me at that particular point in time, right? And I like it's the person who said that you don't just look at the labor only, you look at all these things in totality, right? It's a decision criteria you're making. You're listing all these particular ideas. Where do I want to go, for what reason, and then choosing the best one at that particular point in time, right? So how do they enter in USA? What's the mode of entry? The mode of entry tells you, remember we had that chart in terms of advantages and disadvantages of each of the modes of entry and the risks that you actually face if you use each one of them. And we say very clearly, whichever country you enter, whichever modes you enter with, and the timing will always dictate other decisions, operational decisions that you will make in that country. Because if you go by joint venture, you don't own this fully, right? So in terms of deciding what markets to be in, it's not your single decision. It's not a unitary decision. You have to decide it with somebody else. So the choice of the mode always dictates what other operational decisions you can be able to take in that particular market. Okay? So then they move from USA and go to which countries? Around 2014, 2016, they have European countries, they have France there, they have Germany there, they have Norway, right? Okay? At around the same time, and we see it's a lot of acquisitions. So from joint venturing, from exporting, they've already built the capability to go in and make full acquisition, right? So they have been able to build a capability in terms of operating in foreign markets. They have built what we call international experience. This is a very important resource, right? It's a skill, it's a capability. You have operated in other international markets, so you have international experience. So for a full acquisition, of which you're taking full ownership around it, you're not worried that you can be able to operate this by yourself, right? You have already some international experience, okay? 2014, 2016, and then they already acquire some brands. Did anybody check what nature of brands they acquired? What are the market sizes of these brands? How well known were these particular brands? They didn't just acquire anything. Did anybody check? As a strategist, you want to be able to check what nature of brands are these that I am acquiring, for what reason, right? And they say specifically one brand they acquired in Norway is what? King Oscar, and this is the brand they wanted to use in their entry to China. Why?
It was a simpler name, relatable.
Simpler name, relatable, maybe?
It was perceived to be a superior for that reason.
How superior? Why superior?
King.
I think there's a perception in China that anything from the Western world is more premium.
Besides that, just the name itself, the brand name.
The king.
The king.
Right? In Chinese, king means Wang, right? So, you know, with the dynasties in China, well, the kingdoms and chieftaincies and all these in China, king, that word is very, very important. And anybody who carries that name, Wang, as their first name, it's some supremacy, right? It's in with some authority, right? So when you go in and you're branding your name, and people can very easily relate with this particular name because it is something that they understand, right? So in terms of acceptance of the brand, it's pretty very easy for them to say that Wang, Shama, 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 Wang, something, 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 right? It's very easy for them to say this, all right? So you have to be able to understand the culture of the people in terms of your branding strategies and how to be able to go there, right? And we come to these points that you're talking about. Their entry strategy, how did they finally enter into China? How do they exist in China? Huh?
They went into an agreement with a supply chain management company to link them up with Alibaba, and Alibaba
platforms and do the delivery.
So actually, if you check, this company only exists as a distributor in China, right? They don't have a strategic alliance, no joint venture, but they have a distribution center. Their head office is in Shanghai, right? So the only way that the main presence for them is online, right? Alibaba and Tmall, as we already said, right? Why online? The case already told us why online. Why online? It's one to say, yes, they're in Alibaba, they're in Tmall, but why there?
A different shopping experience.
It's a different shopping experience.
I think that's what the Chinese are doing.
Huh?
I think the Chinese population is going towards online shopping.
It's not going towards, it's already there. I would say almost 90-95% of Chinese people shop online. And that tells you why, with all the quarantine and the coronavirus issues in China, people are not worried about delivery, right? Because there's always home delivery for almost everything. The technology is so advanced that even with the home delivery, I don't need to even see who delivered, right? Outside every homestead, there is lockers, right? So you only have a QR code, it's sent to you, the PIN, and you just flash with your phone, the cabinet opens, and you just pick your luggage and go on. So you didn't even meet with the person that delivered this particular package for you, right? So for them, and the case specifically said that online sales had become very popular with the young people, right? With the people in China, right? It specifically says this, right? So for them, a way to be able to get through the online was idealistic because it's already generally accepted by everybody, right? Talking about the pricing strategy, they say they go with premium. Why does the premium work for them? Premiumization. Why does this one work for them in China?
I think they go in middle class, and everyone wants to be identified with business. So
maybe.
There's also the reality that China already produces 20% of fish in the world. So them coming in is not something new. They're already like law markets that they don't know.
So in terms of aquaculture, actually China leads the world in terms of aquacultural production. But despite that, this company comes in there and they're accepted.
Maybe it's because of their co-founder. I don't know.
Maybe because of their co-founder. This co-founder went on a long journey before he came back to China. He went to Thailand, he went to US, Canada, wherever, and then finally decided, let me go back home. Why? Why premiumization? See the country of origin of the fish that is coming into China? What's the country of origin? What's the country of origin? They specifically said King Oscar from Norway was their entry product to China, right? So it wasn't just the other product that is sold by on, and this is why I was very specific. If you look at what they said, they had a problem with the Chinese people had a problem with the hygiene and the health around their local fish being sold online, right? But you remember we learned a case of US exports to Asian market, European Union exports to Asian market, and they were saying that the people were already aiming and liking global brands. Those foreign brands were what is viewed as premium. So this is the same case here. It is that global brand. It is a Norway. And if you go into the production of seafood, Norway is not just any other. In terms of technology, this is one of the leading countries in terms of sea and cold food production, right? So this is an image that they are carrying back to China, hence the premiumness. And it's not just any other person that buys King Oscar. It is a particular elite person that buys King Oscar, right? The same way it is not just any other person that buys dairy brands from Australia in China, right? These are premium brands for a particular elite few, right? Okay, in China. This is why it explains, that's their pricing strategy. Their modes of distribution is explained by the entry modes then that they choose, all right?
considered setting up a processing plant in Ghana. Considering that Africa, especially Anglophone countries, are not majorly into the sense behind that.
You need to go back then and just really be able to understand how big is this brand in Ghana. I am not sure. In terms of seafood, I think maybe Cote d'Ivoire could be one of the leading countries, right, in terms of their production. I'm not sure where they would set up in Ghana, but you want to go back and find out what exactly drove their strategy to that area, right? So what I'm trying to do is to just push us from just the prescriptive, this is what we should do, to be able to actually see real companies faced with challenges like what you're saying. The government refused them to be able to do our acquisition because of 1, 2, 3. What did they have to do after that, right? What exactly did they do after that to be able to react to that kind of issue in the marketplace? How did they react, right? So the cases present us with opportunities to just go back into that deciding room and be able to make a decision, what must we do, okay? Right, any question? So I think with this we can close that particular chapter. I think well done to all of us. You gave us good, we even got to see the logo of the company. We got to see some of the brands that this particular company sells, right? We got to, have a feel of decisions in the boardroom, right? What must we do, okay? Thank you very much. We can then step out and have our tea. Thank you very much. So while you're taking your tea, look at the small piece. I sent a small reading in your WhatsApp. You can look at that. Do now when there is coronavirus attack. Okay? So it's very interesting, this kind of, so higher is, I know they have strategically been looking for which African country, so the question of which country, right, location advantages that they will get in terms of their biomedical supplies production. Okay, so how did they get into USA? Huh? Before they did this, they had been there for some time. How did they get in there? They realized the shipping cost to USA was pretty very high. So what kind of strategy can we say? We talked about the market seeking, product seeking, resource seeking. Which one was this one? Huh? Market seeking, but also something else. Efficiency seeking, right? We said efficiency seeking is when you want to be able to reduce the transaction cost in terms of the shipping and all this, right? So they get in there, and what kind of products did they sell? Did they sell what they used to sell in China or something else? This was a very small...
They sold what everybody else didn't want to sell.
They sold what everybody else didn't want to sell. Reason?
The others felt it was not very profitable.
Say?
The others felt the small fridges are not profitable.
The others thought the small fridges was not profitable. What did the others think? No one would have thought about selling this one, right? If you want to sell fridges, sell big fridges that everybody can be able to buy from their outlets, right? But they went into the hotel rooms, they were fixing small fridges, and they graduated from the hotel rooms to retail outlets and keeping the cold rooms in the retail outlets, right? Why this one? Huh? Market seeking? Okay, so this is what the strategy tells us. Sometimes when you want to be able to move to other markets, you want to move in as silently as possible, right? You do not want to be able to make a lot of noise around whatever you're doing. So because if you go in sometimes, maybe somebody, so when you go into a market, we call it an attack, is a strategy that you are doing to be able to counter maybe competition in the global space. And when you go in, somebody else could be able to counter-attack that particular strategy, but what Hire uses, then we call it a blue strategy, right? It's a strategy of attack that avoids direct confrontation, right? You do not want to go in and attack the GE. You do not want to confront directly. Who else in the cold storage? Refrigeration? Yeah, you do not want to go directly and be seen to be doing exactly what they are doing, because these are big multinationals, right? They have the resources to counterattack you. They have the resources to be able to go against you. So in this case, you just want to be able to come slowly and silently with something that no one thinks that this is important, right? And as, name again? Andrew. And as Andrew says, no one thought that there would be any value in doing this kind, right? But slowly they established themselves a niche in the hotel room, refrigeration and cold storage, and later graduated to the retail industry. So we call this a blue strategy. And they say, although Hire dominated its home country, China, with a broad range of products, it chose to enter the US market with a low-profile segment, so that no one actually guesses that I am coming in. Now, for you to be able to get into the market, right? Maybe these are terminologies that you need to be able to understand. But I want to be able to take us through the AMC framework, which is a conceptual framework of awareness, motivation, capability, indicating when firms are likely to attack and counterattack. So in terms of the attack, you want to be able to reduce awareness, right? You also want to be able to be sure that there is not so much motivation for anybody to attack you, and you want to be sure that there is not high capability for anybody to be able to attack you. In terms of awareness, this is why you would enter silent. You would be able to choose something that is not so explicit, that I am going into this market or I am trying to diversify, right? I think there is one particular product that we learned, I think I'm not sure we did that in this particular class, where a company would actually change its dynamics in the market, and the people in the market didn't actually know what they are known for, but they long changed from what you originally knew. So silently they have been able to change their dynamics and their focus areas. Okay? So what exactly guides you in terms of understanding whether to be able to collude or not collude? So what is a collusion then? A collusion is when two firms attempt between competing firms to reduce competition. So we agree, I'm not saying openly agree, that this is what we are going to do. Now, collusion can be either tacit or explicit. Explicit definitely is illegal, right? It is illegal for two firms to come and decide that this is what we are going to do. But it is possible to send signals to another firm that this is exactly what I want to do in this market, and it is possible for them to follow, especially if you're a market leader and you have higher capability in this particular market. So firms indirectly coordinate actions by signaling their intention to reduce output and maintain pricing above competitive levels. For example, if Coca-Cola took their prices higher, right? This is a bigger player in the market. Most of the times they are dominant more than other fresh juice or soft drinks manufacturers in the country. So this is a signal they are sending to others. So it's very easy for other people to take the price so that they can always be like Coca-Cola, right? This is silently sending a signal, and this is a kind of tacit collusion, right? Or if somebody in power industry decides decided maybe if we have 2-3 suppliers of power in the country, one of them takes the price, it is easy for the others to be able to follow. This is a kind of signal that this is what we are going to do, all right? Okay, so if then they come into a collision, they all form, especially if it's an explicit one, they form a cartel, all right? Now, one of the things that makes it very, very difficult for farms to be able to pollute or to form a collusion is what we call a prisoner's dilemma. Anybody heard about this one before? What is it about?
It's where you have two parties and you try and play them against each other in a way that you mentioned that strategy is being used by the other person and then the other person responds. Then you could use a good example would be, I think in a literal concept, a prosecutor who separates two criminals and tells one of them or the other one saying something, the other one like ends up like providing evidence and then the prosecutor like has a
Right? Thank you. That's very good. And that somebody else said yes here. It's the same line, right? Okay. So this is used a lot in game theory, gaming strategies, right? Which particular strategy do you adopt? And like you said, in a criminal sense, and this is why it is called a prisoner's dilemma, right? It's like a prisoner who has been taken captive somewhere, and they're saying, if you actually disclose the issues, we are going to reduce your fine a little bit, and we are going to fine the other one 10 million Kenya shillings, right? But for you, maybe we could think about 1 million, and your charges are going to be a little bit lower. But if both of you disclose, then it's still going to be 10 million for all of you, right? So it means that they have got more motivation for them to be able to disclose. So most of the times the farms look at going to a situation like what we call the prisoner's dilemma in terms of deciding, if I do this, is my competitor going to do the same, or will they do otherwise, right? So for example, in a case like this one, this is in an airline setting. So we say we have about 200 people traveling, right? So we have airline A and airline B, right? So for them to be able to sit down and agree for a collusion, it would be beneficial if they know that for each one of the 200 people we have, you can take 100, and I will take 100. So from this, I can be able to make my 50,000, and you will also make your 50,000, right? That's a kind of accommodating. Take this, and I take this one, right? But if any one of these particular airlines realizes that if I take more people than the other particular airline, then I can charge 300 shillings for 200 people, and I will make 60,000, right? And the other person loses. The other person can also decide to do the same. So we call this one being aggressive. They were aggressive a little bit to be able to clinch the whole bigger number. Then it is possible they can actually make more than they will make if they colluded, right? But in a case where each one of them then lost from failing to collude, then it means that you have your 100 people and you charge them 300, then this way you lose. You make the 30,000 instead of the 50,000 if you collude, right? So what is it more? Is there motivation for me to collude, or more motivation for me to go aggressive? And then finally, by our aggressivity, we all lose, right? So this is a prisoner's dilemma, and because they don't know what is the tactic that the other person is going to take. You do not know what decision is your competitor going to take, right? So yes, it is true you could go aggressive and become a little bit more profitable, but it is possible that eventually all of you could also lose from being aggressive. This is what we call a case of collusion or not. So in terms of the industry characteristics and possibility of collusion vis-a-vis competition, we can either have cases where we have collusion is possible if we have few firms, like I said, it's a situation of high concentration, right? So we have few firms in that particular market. So in this case, the total industry sales accounts are accounted for by maybe 4 or 5 or top 8 organizations in the country or in that particular region. So in this case, it is easier for these people to come up with a collusion strategy, because then when one decides, it is easier for all the other players. They all clearly know each other pretty very well. It is easier for the others to be able to decide on the same move as well. It is possible also to have this kind of collusion when there exists an industry leader, like the example I gave for Coca-Cola. So in this case, a firm has a dominant market share and sets acceptable prices and margins in the industry, and everybody thinks this one is acceptable, this is good enough, you can go by that. And if you default to be able to take up that price, then this particular leading firm has got the capacity to be able to punish, right? By either deterring you or combating your defection, right? Say by using undercutting of prices, or they could be able to flood the market. So this way then you're not able to sell, right? They could also be able to, you can also have collusion possible if you have homogeneous products. The products have got no form of, or very minimal form of differentiation between the features, the products, or the uses of that particular product. So in this case, for example, if it's the electricity or the railway tracks or steel industries, there's no form of differentiation between these products. So when it is homogeneous product, there is also higher possibility of a collusion, right? If there is high entry barriers as well in that particular industry, by virtue of maybe the sunk cost that you have to be able to invest to be able to get into that industry, or by virtue of the regulations and the licensing and permits, or if it is like the airline industry, it is very difficult to be able to get permits to be able to fly to particular destinations, especially the high turnover destinations. So in this way, there is high entry barriers, and where there are high entry barriers, then it's very possible to have a collusion. But also you can have high possibility for collusion if the there's high market commonality. In this way we say self-restraint from deterrence or familiarity is very difficult, because then we are in a common market, we understand each other very well, we are very familiar with each other, and I know in case I deter or in case I do 1, 2, 3, my partner or my competitor has capability to do 1, 2, 3, right? So there is quite a lot of commonality between ourselves, and this happens for breweries like the Heineken, Sabila, and Carlsberg, especially in the European market, right? One, they always do almost the same thing, because you know your partner really too well that if you took one move, then will be very difficult, then you almost know what their action will be if you take the move. So everybody prefers to be able to keep their safe space, right? So these are particular cases in which we would have kind of collusions within the market, okay? So what kind of resources do you require then to either be able to go on a competitive dynamic, or to be able to face competition out there? We say we already described these particular features of the resource-based view, right? V stands for, so the firm has to create more value for the customers than their competition, right? The VRIN kind of framework. Reality, either the mature or the nature or nurture, some assets are very rare and generate significant advantage. So if this particular feature of your resources is rare, then it means that you have a competitive advantage over somebody else. It would be very difficult for them to be able to counter-attack, right? But also if you can be able to organize your resources in terms of your either business model or in terms of the way you organize for competition, then you have a competitive advantage over your competitors. But as well, if your resources are not imitable in any way, they cannot be imitated, then this way you have a competitive advantage over your competitors. So this is adopting the resource and capabilities framework to be able to explain competitive dynamics in the marketplace. All right? So what time is it? I think time is going. I see some people looking at the time. It's 9:30, right? So what nine o'clock.
Very sharp.
Okay, so let me just almost summarize this, and then I'll leave the notes for you to be able to go through. Okay, maybe send some, I don't know how, maybe you can be able to respond to this by going through, all right? So we talk about the aspects of the formal institution as well, and in issues around competitive dynamics, right? There could be dumping issues, we have already done this, right? But however, when there is dumping, like the case that we went through, then it is difficult to prove predatory prices, and it is not exactly clear what the cost is. Like, for example, the case we saw with USA and using the products from India to be able to establish what's the cost of that particular, what was the product? Concentrate juice, right? Because you have to be able to prove the price and to be actually saying that the price in the home country was lower than the country where you have exported the price. And when farms are found to be selling below cost, courts would also want to see evidence that the initial incurred loss will be subsequently recovered. You can actually be able to associate that loss with the dumping aspect that you're claiming, and you'll see if, for example, these prices are evenized, then I can be able to recover from that particular loss. You have to prove all this, which sometimes is a little bit very, very difficult. Okay? Okay, so what I will do, I will send this plus some questions that you can maybe, that you can be able to, these are some of the strategies that you can use in case of local farms versus big and M&Es, which kind of the case. But then the most important thing is to be able to analyze your competitor before you even make the move, right? Be able to see, how can I be able to make an awareness? How can I be able to make a move that they will not be aware? So in this case, it means that you really, really need to know your competitor very well, to be able to also know their capability. What is their capability in terms of responding to the moves that I make even before I make that particular move, but also what would motivate them to actually react. Right? Well, the motivation is the space that I'm taking motivates them so highly that they actually need to counterattack. So in this case, you need to be able to analyze your competitor and to be able to predict likely reactions and counterattacks even before you make the strategy that you're making, right? So you have scenarios. If I went to this particular market, who would also be interested in getting into the market? What are likely strategies that they would use, or what would be likely reactions that could actually come from that particular competitor? I also understand the rules of the game governing domestic and international competition around the world, but also to be able to strengthen resources and capabilities that most effectively compete or cooperate. So you need to be sure what resources will enable me to be able to compete, but also to be able to cooperate in terms of collusions in that particular market. So before you make any move, it is important that you have to go through this analysis, because we don't live in a space where it is only us that are operating. We have competitors and we have companies that are waiting for us to make a move, and there will be an equal measure or separate measure or counter-attack to whatever we will do. So it is important to go through this kind of questions beforehand. Okay? All right, that's okay with me. I can send you this and you will go through it at your own time. I have a few questions also at the end there that you can be able to use as your discussion questions. Does it help? Is it okay? So I'm sure we all got our marks for the midterm exam. We all know how we fared in the midterm exam, right? So we know how much more effort we need to put in the final exam. And you know what kind of exams maybe I'm likely to use. Why are you laughing? It is true.
I hope not so long.
Well, this question was one question longer. That's why, because it it was the entire paper. There wasn't, you remember there's always an option question, right? So you have 4 questions, but one is, you choose 2 in the second part. The first one is compulsory of 30 marks, and then you choose 2 in the next part, right? But this one I gave you all the questions, that's why I increased your time. But most of you finished this paper within 2 hours, 2 hours, 3 minutes, 2 hours, 4 minutes, 2 hours, 5 minutes. Hardly anybody went to 20 minutes. Hardly. Okay, I'm saying hardly. If you were 20, you were very few of you. The majority was always 2 hours. I can tell you I surveyed your timings and all that.
Timed out.
It timed out for you. Huh? It timed out for you.
Because of the fact that you look at the time is running so fast, so you're also trying to put everything.
Yeah, so I will also encourage us to be able to restate the answers in our own words. I know there was sometimes a lot of copy-paste, copy-paste, copy-paste. So I know who was a copy-paste, I can tell you, right? I followed through all that. Thanks to technology, it's able to show you all that, right? So please, let's try and understand, but also be able to apply the questions. Why are you shaking your head, sir?
No comment.
The comments are good because they help me to be able to know how. I'm not here to punish anyone, right? Right? I want to be able to give you something that will also be beneficial to you.
Take away.
Huh? Take away? For final exam. If we can be able to understand these issues, I mean, no one, in your place of work, nobody will ever come to tell you define something, right? You just need to be sure that you know these things and you can apply them. For example, there is one slide I sent on the resources and capabilities. If you remember, this particular one was talking about nature of resources and capabilities and companies that have got this particular kind of resources and capabilities. So any question that talks about resources and capabilities, I hope you can go back to this slide and not just talk about they have capabilities, they have technology, what kind of technology? Be a little specific, right? You know these terminologies, please try and use them, right? When you say that they were avoiding the transaction cost and the shipping cost would be, this is efficiency seeking strategies, right? Let's use these terminologies to be able to group ideas and items together, all right? Okay. Please share with me your remarks. No comment. No comment at all. Anybody that has got comments from the exam? Is it helpful to me? The marking strips. You don't have it online?
No.
Huh? You can only see what? The marks. You cannot see your script. You can't go through your script. Okay. I have the script. I have the answers also there, so you can be able to compare what my answers were and whatever you are. I'll look for a way to send that to you. Okay? Something else? You see, that this is where you need to give feedback, right? Then I know how to respond to what. How's the performance? I'm not very worried. I think, but you see, this is a different scenario where it was a sit-home and there was, of course, opportunity to reference. So I don't know how that would compare with a normal exam, right? But I know some people went to extra extent to, use their own kind of ideas and examples in terms of writing the exam, which to me I really welcome, right? And I always say for me the exam is not about writing so much, right? It is just having the main points and the main ideas and be able to contextualize those particular ideas, right? It's not writing, you find people writing, right? What are you writing, right? Facts are facts and issues are issues, right? Just state what they are, right? In a clear way and be able to give an example or two of the same, right? As I said, sometimes it's very easy to be able to see people who can contextualize issues and somebody else who's just crammed a point and another one, right? I don't expect that at this particular level, okay? Okay, any other question or feedback? otherwise, then I wish you the very best. Thank you so much, and sorry for taking so much more of our time.
Thank you. As I'm just saying, no comment.